Hey,
Hey.
how's it going, guys?
Hey, what's up?
Hello, everyone. I'm. This is where we'll a couple of things. Gunpla Talk is back on my channel, so I'm back to hosting it, but I'm not back to hosting. I'm temporarily hosting it. I'm back to hosting the show on my channel, but I'm only temporarily hosting tonight's show, as in like leading tonight's show because Tim's not with us today. But anyway, how's it going, guys? All of you guys watching live, and those of you who may be watching later, this is Gunpla Talk episode 50.
50.
It's a big event.
And boy, have we prepared something special with all of these extra frilly celebrations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've got new layouts. That's cool. That's pretty much it, though. We're back on my channel, though. So basically, we were having trouble with. I don't know if we mentioned this in the last episode. Did we? Why we moved it to Tim's channel? Some people were wondering, but it is because that what is it? Google Chats.
Google Hangouts.
Google Hangouts. Yeah, that's what it is. Sorry. Google Hangouts was discontinued, and so basically there was no real way to do a good group chat like this live streaming on YouTube unless you used a paid subscription service like what we're using now, which I wasn't using before, but now I'm using it as well. If you guys watched my my interview with Lincoln the other day, I used it for the first time with him, and now we're using it here, and it works pretty good. So
that's great.
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
Yeah, really good.
Good.
Really good. Yep.
Awesome.
It's Saturday night for Josh and I, but it's early morning for John. So John may be a little bit fresher than Josh and I, but
and I'm loaded with caffeine. So
yeah. For those of you guys who aren't aware of who Jon Bius is it Bius? Is that correct?
That's right.
That's right. All right, cool. John, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Like you said, I'm Jon Bius. I've got a website, jonbius.com, and I've got all the usual social media and Patreon. And I do blogs. I've started doing videos. I mainly focus on sci-fi now, but for about 10 years prior to this, I'd done loads of aircraft, enough that it burned me out. So that's what I do, and I'm glad to be here.
Sci-fi is just a lot more fun, isn't it? There's so much more variation.
I think so. I like not that you can't use your imagination with a Spitfire or a P-51, but nobody wants to see a Spitfire that you just do what you want, Yeah. But when you take something in sci-fi and you say, well, this is what I imagine it to be, people just say, oh, cool, So a lot of freedom there.
I've always wondered about that with the military and stuff. It feels like the creativity, you can be creative, but it's within this kind of little dome, and it feels like sci-fi and other stuff. You can just branch out, like you said. But I guess even though it's within that little dome, you still can have a great amount of fun within that as well.
Yeah. With the military stuff, certainly there's parameters, and nothing says you can't do what you want. If you're sitting at your house and you're building something and it's just going to sit on your shelf, if you want to paint it purple, paint it purple. But you know how it is. As soon as you put it out on the interwebs, that's not the shade of dirt that they had in Kursk in 1943, and that's a little nonsense, I think, at times. So, but at the same time, there have been times I've seen people say, here's some Gunpla that I did, and somebody say, well, in the anime it wasn't that color of red. So it can run both ways, but there's certainly more freedom to just say, well, I imagined it to be here, and everybody's just happy with, oh, that looks cool. That seems to be the main thing. Does it look cool?
Well, I have a bunch more questions, though, so we'll talk more about your
I'm about to
background.
go. Okay, so on that, but no,
there's plenty of stuff that we'll get to talking about with you, John. But Josh, as well, you just want to go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Yep, I'm Josh Rodara. I live in Australia, and I build Gunpla, and I'm building quietly on my own, just doing some snap kits and stuff. not as much usual Josh crazy detailing. And you can buy my Zeta book which John bought recently, still for sale on my website, and I got all my art prints and stuff like that. You can say hi to me on all the social medias as well. Yeah.
I think it's probably happens every time that I have a video showing your poster in the background. I'll get a message from someone. Hey, where did you get that Shunenja poster?
And you're like, nowhere. I did it myself. Yes.
Hopefully you're getting some sales off of everyone I'm directing to your site, but
because I do get random ones, like it'll be like a month or two with nothing, and then just some random sale, and I'm like, what the hell? And maybe it's just from your videos. Yeah,
could be. You're welcome.
You're not getting no royalties. Jeez.
Yeah, what the hell? I need to get my cut of that.
Yeah.
Free advertising over here.
Yeah.
Lucky that you sent me the absolute biggest one, so it's
I know, right?
Half the wall over there. No, I love it. I'll have to. You have to whenever we move back to the States and I get set up there at USA Gundam store.
Oh man!
You have to get me a couple other giant. What's the AO size?
AO size. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Oh, they're so good. Oh,
fill up the whole shop background.
That's it. Yes. On the ceilings.
Invite him over to do a mural.
Oh man. Oh, that'd be cool
as well. That would be cool though. Yeah. To get like an actual illustration just straight on the wall. That'd be pretty awesome.
Oh man, that'd be so much fun. All in my ballpoint pen. I'm there for like 8 months. Yeah.
You know the videos that you see of like the people who have like photographic memory who can like draw a city like from memory, just like in pen, like on the wall with gigantic stuff.
And they're just sitting there, and it's just from memory. Like they saw the photo once or something like that.
For like days and days just drawing out this gigantic mural. It's crazy. That'd be a cool skill, I guess, to have. I don't know if you could really do a whole lot with that, but it's pretty impressive.
And I wonder if it's like a skill or if it's like they're tormented until they get that out on paper and then they're free from the memory. It's like, is it like a bad superpower?
Yeah.
And you have to wonder if when they were kids, their parents were shouting at them about drawing on the wall, and now, it's their living.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's it.
I'm sure there's pros and cons to it. Yeah. But it's an impressive skill to have nonetheless. And I'm Zach, as you guys I'm sure are very well aware, as you're here on my channel, so I won't spend too much time on my intro. With that, you guys want to talk about what you're working on first, or you want to go through some? Let's talk about what we're working on first before we get into some new stuff. That's more fun.
I've got a little bit of show and tell. Well, first my show and tell is where is he? There he is. This is what I've been working on. Zach hooked me up with a P-band I send over for this one. This is a Hazenthal. I finally know how to actually type this out properly now with all the punctuation and everything. And I was slowly building the guy together, and I was texting Zach, "Oh man, this part's so cool and blah blah. It's so unique and everything." And I still can't get over his butt flaps. Like, why just horizontal?
It's so
like
cool.
they're awesome. Everything is ridiculous and so cool. And teeny. This is probably the biggest ratio of torso to legs I think I've seen. But man, crazy. Beautiful. If any of you are like half interested in this, you probably already have it already. And the good old crotch poking out there. But man, really fun build. I'm really looking forward to the Ra as well. So. That's been heaps of fun.
I meant to send you the link for this, but I saw one on Twitter of one that a guy had designed. He had designed it in 3D and 3D printed one, but he made the back skirts in a little bit different way, and it was really cool looking. Instead of like the side, they're like down on the sides a little bit, and the shape was a little bit different.
And they were thicker?
And not so like square. Yeah, white.
I nearly sent you that, and I was about to say you probably saw this because we just follow the same people. But yeah, all the painting was good. That was the guy who was scratch building it. I think he was scratch building it. He's been scratch building for like the past year or something like that. Yeah.
I think that's a different one. I think that's guy.
He 3D printed the side skirts.
Oh, just the side skirt parts.
I think just the side skirts. Yeah.
Okay.
But it looks wonderful. Yeah. So anyway, this is really fun, and it's huge. It's really fun. So man, just snap building, good fun. And I'm going to show you guys some non-Gunpla stuff. I'm going to try and do a screen share thing, see if I can get this working.
All right.
Share screen.
Let's have it.
Let's see. Select window. Give me a sec. I'll try not to do too much tunnel vision. Let's see. Can you see that? It's like a woodworking table saw.
Yeah. Hang on. I I can throw it up here for you.
Okay.
There we are.
That working?
Yeah, it's so nice to see some woodworking. I miss woodworking.
Man, yes. John, have you done much woodworking?
Not since high school and that whole finger gone thing, but
And the whole what thing?
the whole finger gone thing,
Did you lose a finger?
No, I'm joking.
Oh, gee.
Just tell me, doing that. Come on, man.
Oh, man.
It's not that late.
Oh, gosh.
I was just
Man. That was great. Yes. No. So there's this thing from Canada. Can you see that the round board game there?
Oh wow. That's
So
nice.
it's called Crokinole or Crokinole. I had never heard of it before, and I saw a review on YouTube. And basically, it's like a sliding disc game. And the round center bit. This isn't mine. This is Google image search. Center bit is all polished and waxed, super slidey. So it's almost like curling in the Olympics where they slide that thing and it goes really far. Basically, you have two players, white and black, and there's all these circles or different point zones, and you flick your discs. And you have to at least touch one of your opponent's discs each shot, otherwise you lose all your points and stuff. But anyway, the guy on YouTube said it was really addictive, and I'm like, I might try and get one of these. They're a few $100s and then a few $100s to deliver, so a lot of people build them. So here is Josh's tale of how I started building one.
How far across is that, Josh?
I mean, it's okay. I'm going to tell you in millimeters. It's about 7 or 70 centimeters. So. 2.5 feet, maybe.
Okay.
So it's pretty big. And generally you use plywood for the base of it. And so what I needed to do is this is my plywood here, and I needed to cut this into a circle. And of course you can use a jigsaw or something like that. But I wanted to do something tricky, and I looked up a YouTube tutorial on how to do it on a table saw. And how you do it is, of course, you can't just run it through a table saw circular because it'll grip and flick and kill whoever's around. So this wooden bit in the middle, this is just a little runner. So I cut a little bit of wood to be the runner, and then I screwed that onto the bottom of my kind of control base. And then I put a nail in the middle, and then this top piece of wood is my main board. And basically what you do is you, oh, that's not it. Well, I jumped ahead. Hang on. Oh no, they're not all in order. Okay, I gotta find the ones that are in order. Oh, this is terrible. Oh gosh.
Cut the angles away more and more and more and more and more and more.
You cut an angle, pull it back, rotate it, push it through, pull it back, rotate it, and you do like 10 cuts, 20 cuts, 32, and then finally you go through and you end up with the circle like that. That was real satisfying.
Cuts?
Yeah, 1 million cuts. Yeah. There it is, looking like a stop sign. Yeah,
that'll take forever.
It wasn't too long. It maybe only took me like 20 minutes to do it, or 15 minutes. Setting up and getting all my measurements right, that took a bit of time because of course you put the screw in the wrong spot. Where's my so that's how it looked when it was round. And then what I wanted to make was kind of like a hexagon around the outside. And so my girlfriend rents a wood shop where you get to pay a certain amount a week and you get to use all their tools. And one of the guys there had this new drop saw angular thing, and you have to set your angle to be 22.5 degrees, which I thought was a really random angle, but of course it's actually half of 45. So there was actually a setting on the saw to go to 22.5 degrees. And you just cut all the pieces out and make, I'm going to scroll through here. And here's like my 8 sides. That's 8 sides, right? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. 8 sides. And this is where it felt a bit Gunpla because that lower left one, of course, angles are never perfect. He was a little bit big, so I'd bring it back in the saw, shave off like a 1/4 of a millimeter, put it back in, get it all perfect. So that was kind of the base of it. And then using a bunch of wood clamps to glue it all together. Let me find the next bit. So then with my round bit, then I got a bunch of wood glue. And I don't know if wood glue has gotten just like insanely tech and just amazing now, but you put the wood glue down and it's like stronger than the wood itself. So when you pull wood apart, the wood will break. It's crazy. It's so good.
When a few years back when I built our bed frame for our previous apartment, and then when we moved out, we trashed it, and I was trying to pull the thing apart, and like for a couple of them, like couldn't get it apart, so I'm just like ended up having to like break the boards. It's ridiculous.
And I bought a bunch of, I wanted to veneer the top of it so it looks like real nice wood. Of course, at one point I was trying to source wood that's like 700 millimeters wide, and that would just cost like $1,000, of course.
Yeah.
So I got a bunch of veneer, and I watched some YouTube tutorials on how to put veneer on. Obviously, I didn't watch enough, and I didn't practice enough, because I put the veneer down and it was really nice, but I ended up with a lot of like bubbles and stuff like that. So what I do is then afterwards I'd have to slice the veneer and then pry it up with toothpicks, pack glue in, and then clamp it down to get rid of the bubbles. And there were a few on there, and then I noticed there were more and more, and I probably had to do about 20 bubbles over the whole thing. So that was a bit disappointing.
So
and
that's
then there
the
were
woodworking equivalent of silvering of decals.
yeah, dude, yes, that is perfect. That is exactly it. Yes. Oh man, yep. That's
When were you working on this, and how did we never hear about this until now?
I don't. When I was prepping for the show, I'm like, oh, what have I been working on? My wood thing. Oh, I haven't shown them. I don't know why I haven't told you guys. Yeah, it's been my main project for like the past month or so. Yeah. And there were a couple bits where the veneer didn't line up perfectly. So, of course, I'm having fun being super meticulous and cutting little teeny tiny splinters of veneer to lay in so that they so you can like barely see the difference. I think I have a before and after here. Here's a before of one of the fill-ins that I did. Let me find the after. And then, and of course, you let it dry, and then you sand it back, and then it basically disappears. And it's so nice. It's kind of like sanding putty and then priming it. It's real nice. And then my octagon bit, what I wanted to do was put some little details in between each of the octagon pieces. So I only have a Dremel here, and I bought a little router thing for like $50, so that I can route a little groove in the middle like that, and then cut little strips of veneer and lay them in like that. And then just like sanding back some joins you've done on Gunpla or something, just make it all messy with the glue and then just sanding it back, and it fills all the gaps. It's so nice.
That looks really good.
Oh yeah, it turned out really good. It was really fun. Yeah.
It reminds me of my wife does marquetry, and it reminds me of that.
What's marquetry again?
It's where you take pieces of wood that are small pieces of wood, and you put them together so that they come out a picture of like a lion or a person or something like that. But it's like that, just hundreds and hundreds of little pieces put together like a puzzle. So
is it kind of like inlay sort of thing where you put all the wood together and then
it's over the top of a piece of wood. It's not actually inlaid, but she'll start off with a design and cut little pieces of wood into a certain shape and glue it on, and then another one, and before you know it, you end up with like a hedgehog or a squirrel or something. It's amazing stuff.
Oh damn! Oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah. See, now you need to do that. See.
Oh man, yeah.
Line the whole edge with marquetry Gunpla.
Oh man. Yep. I mean, I'm planning on this being my first draft board, and I want to do other ones, but yeah, so far. And then of course the wood, you have to cover it in polyurethane, and I got like an acrylic polyurethane, and this is of course a shot in the sun because it's just such a nice moment. If any of you guys have oiled wood before and you put the oil or the lacquer on, and it just eats up into the wood, and it looks so almost glittery. It was really nice. Yeah. And this is the board so far, and you can see some of I put a little bit of extra polyurethane in there, kind of like a putty to fill in some of the holes. So this is where it's at so far. And what you have to do is you have to put in these markings with a Sharpie or a paint pen, then do a few more coats and let it cure for 2 weeks, and then you wet and dry it 1,000, 2,000, and then car polish wax it. And I did all my coats and was letting it dry for 2 weeks and realized that I hadn't put my lines in. So I have to put my lines in and do my coats again. But it's getting there, and it should be done for Christmas for me and my family hanging out, having Christmas fun times. Oh, wait.
There you go. Well, dang. There we go.
I was gone. Yeah. So that's what I've been working on. And man, it's been fun doing woodwork. I haven't done woodwork in years. And just even putting it through the table saw and smelling the wood. It's so nice. Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
There
we go.
Very jealous.
Yeah. Because what have you last done besides like wood bases for your Gunpla? So what was your like kind of most recent wood thing, Zach?
I think maybe the most recent thing was just a cat tower.
yeah.
tech over there. So,
Yeah. Cool.
but yeah, I've been meaning to make some wood bases, because the ones that I've made so far are just like relatively simple. But what I've been planning to do is go in and like make like a load of them, and obviously keep a bunch for myself, but then sell some too. So I've been meaning to do that, but maybe in the near future. But anyway, I'm looking forward to doing some more wood stuff. And again, it's something else to look forward to when we move back to America too. Here in Korea, it's just kind of hard to do because I don't really have the good space for it.
That's what I was thinking. You wouldn't have the space. Because you really need it.
No, we don't have a garage or anything here. So
yeah.
But cool. All right,
Yeah,
John, what are you working on recently?
I'm just working on plastic stuff. I mean, it's not exciting. That woodworking stuff looks so cool. This morning I was working on a 40K Goliath rock grinder. It's a truck that grinds things. It's from something called the Gene Stealer cults, and so I guess they go out and steal Levi's and stuff.
Oh man, yes, taking the dad joke.
Yeah,
dad joke award.
I've got a Nemo in the works that I'm working on for Gunpla. I've got a Gun EZ that I'm doing some of my lunchtime Gunpla work on to get ready to bring here to the house and do some work here. Let's see. I'm finishing up an F105 commission build that I've been working on. I've got some Machine and Krieger things that I'm doing. A fleet, I think it's called a Fleeg. I think that's how you say it. That I'm working on. I just finished up Darth Vader's TIE Fighter, the Bandai kit.
Yeah, that was cool.
I finished up a Gundam Bale a couple of weeks ago. So I always have to fit into the publishing schedule. I always have about 8 or 9 projects going, and I just do them a little bit at a time so that I've got something different to write about each week. But on my schedule planned out, I've got 25 things coming up, so I can just kind of work on it. That TIE Fighter was my 35th kit this year, so I just kind of keep cranking them out.
What?
Yeah. We'd have to figure out who's got more kits finished between you and Moki. I don't know. He's often putting out finished kits as well, but I don't know. Between the two of you, I'm always seeing you guys finishing stuff like every week. So
yeah, it's I never set out to build fast. I like doing it so much, and I put so many hours into it. It's just if you sit down at the bench 40 hours a week, you're mostly focused on building, you're just going to get stuff done generally. So the trouble is I've also got a 40-hour day job, so it makes me tired.
Oh man. Wow.
Yeah. Understandable. But yeah, it's and again, it's something we'll talk about more here in a little bit, but your output of work is pretty crazy. So as I'm sure you hear often, I know that's probably one of the things especially in the Paint on Plastic group. I know you're well known for that. I've seen other people commenting that.
Yeah. There've been times I've been in chats or something, and somebody would talk about, well, I'm working on finishing this model, and they would go, well, you need to hurry up. John just finished 6 kits, So.
Yeah.
Not even any point in even trying to keep up with that. All right.
Have you got one in particular that you're working on right now that you're really enjoying?
Yeah, this rock grinder. It's got so many different facets to it. There's there's a tarp on the back, so you've got some fabric texture. There's some steel plate. There's armor plate. There's little greeblies with pipes and knobs, and there's guns. There's characters. There's tires. I mean, everything you could think of that you could stick on a model is some kind of texture or shape or variety of weathering for weathering. It's all there, and it's just a little handful of a kit. But I try to speed stuff along so that I can publish each week. I'm just getting beyond the base coating, and I'm already about 20 hours into the kit because it's just so much fun. I mean, it's one of those I don't want to end,
Yep. Oh man, that's cool. And even though you're not pumping that kit out particularly, if you're doing updates on that, right?
Yeah, I've got shameless plug. I do more of my day-to-day updates. I'll do like one picture on YouTube or Facebook. But I do more of, okay, here's how I did the base painting process. Here's how I did the weathering process on the Patreon page for subscribers there. Just, I mean, just purely for money's sake, you know?
Yeah. But I was going to say is people would love that. They'd eat that up.
Yeah. And I do try to balance it that, you know, I show some things on Facebook. I put some things in the blog. I'm going to be doing more video that's publicly available just to show these things, just to show pictures. It's hard sometimes to strike a balance when you're, because this is kind of a part-time job for me. And when you're trying to strike a balance of, well, I gotta pay bills. But you also want to show everybody what you're doing. You know, it can be a tight rope to walk.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you're, at least in the past when I've come to you with questions a couple of times, I know you're very open to answering questions and stuff too. So if people, even if they're not Patreon subscribers, with people who have questions about your stuff, I'm sure you're usually pretty open to answer people's questions about things. So
yeah, because I've always hated it when in the past when I would ask somebody a question, I'd say, hey, how did you do that? And they'd go, well, it's a secret. You know, or they would just say, "Oh, well, I just dry brushed it," and I'm like, "Dude, you did not dry brush that. Or if you did it in a special way." So my underlying, I guess you'd say, my underlying mantra is, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
and I like to share that fun with people, so that they enjoy the hobby. And so when somebody comes to me and says, and sometimes I think they regret asking me the question because they'll say, well, how did you do this? And like 9 paragraphs later, I'm like, and so that's how I started off, you know? But I feel like if somebody asks, they want a thorough answer. They don't want just do this and do this and do this. A thorough answer. And it's actually worked out pretty good because there've been a couple of people that have signed on as patrons that said, well, I appreciate you helping me. You always answer my questions, so I'm going to at least do this, you know. So, but yeah, if somebody asks me a question, I answer it. Just because I guess I like, you know, I like helping.
That's right. And
or I like reading and writing. I don't know which of the two it is.
yeah, definitely. Lincoln and I were just talking about that the other day too. That like, I think maybe we were actually talking about this a little bit more after the live broadcast ended, but we were saying that like, when if I had a Facebook page of 20,000 followers, or I was just sharing stuff just to a handful of people from my private page, like if someone's asking me questions or something, it just seems like the polite thing to do is just answer their questions, right? So it's not really got too much to do with how our followers or whatever kind of following you might have online, or even if you are trying to do your work as part of a job or as a way of income, but just answering questions is just kind of the polite thing to do, right? So
and I've still got a little kid's enthusiasm for the hobby. You know, when I was 10, 12 years old and I'd get a new model, I'd go call all my friends and they'd come down to the house and we'd look at it and just be, ooh, look at this. I still feel like, I still feel like that 12-year-old kid inside, that I get excited about it. You know, I want people to enjoy the hobby. I want people to learn how to do stuff. You know, I want people when I tell them, well, I did it this way, and they go, oh, well, I've been doing it this way. You know, I'll go, oh, I'm totally ripping that off. You know? So I have a lot of enthusiasm for it, beyond just. It's not that I do it as a second job, I guess you'd say. That's not my primary motivator. I would do this anyway. So as long as I'm doing it, I may as well try and get all I can out of it. But it's really just for the fun. It really is.
Sure. As I'm sure you've run into in your time so far, you'll get people that will still say like, well, if you're doing it just for fun, then why are you having a Patreon page or something?
Yeah. And my answer to that is because I got bills. You know, believe me, if I didn't need the income, I wouldn't do Patreon. I wouldn't sell the stuff I have. I would probably do the same amount of work that I do and just show everybody. But it really is. It's not just, okay, this is paint money, model kit money, I want a big stash. There are real bills to pay, and if those don't get paid, and if I don't have that other stuff, I have to cut way back on what I can do, because otherwise we just couldn't afford it. So sometimes people say, how could you monetize this? And I'm like, how do you monetize anything?
I think it's very fair because you have a very large breadth of experience and knowledge about different things, and so if you have that you're sharing with people, I think it's fair to monetize that. If you were someone who like just started building Gunpla and like you've never painted a kit before and you're trying to have a Patreon page about like sharing your painting videos when it's like your first time ever painting a kit, probably not a whole lot of.
Yeah, it's like my day job. I'm a web developer, and recently a client asked me, we made some changes to the website. We were doing some things, and they said, "Why do you charge so much per hour?" Because they said the change you did was not that difficult. And I said, "You're not paying me for the 1 hour, the 45 minutes that I worked. You're paying me for the last 22 years of experience that I've got to know what to do. That's what you're paying me for." So, while I'm only a couple of years into sci-fi, I've been building models. I got back into it in 2006, and I built close to 350 since then. So I've had a lot of time to make a lot of mistakes, so I feel like I can tell you a couple of ways to do it right on some things. And I can tell you about 40 ways to do it wrong, which there's some value to that.
More value.
Yeah.
The thing I find interesting about Patreon and stuff, like even if it is somebody, it's their first kit and they're doing a video. If somebody's like, yeah, cool, here's some money, who are we to say? Man, anybody can get any money for anything. I love it. I just love the concept so much. It's so cool.
I know that a lot of the folks that support me on Patreon, I hope everybody's getting something out of it, but I know a lot of them do it because they go, I just like you and your work. You do some work that I like, and even if I know most of the things you do, or maybe I know more than you do, just not too hard, then it's really nice when people go, look, dude, I'm just supporting you because I just like what you do. So there's a lot of different, but you're right. If I'm doing a woodworking video and it's the first time I've ever done it, and I'm approaching it from the angle of, okay, watch the first time guy trying to do a woodworking video, people who've never done woodworking might go, well, I'll watch that because he's going to be just 1 hour ahead of me, So there can be value in that. As we know, the interwebs, people will pay for anything. So I'm like, hey, I'll pay for anything. Let me throw some stuff out there and see if I can make a few bucks on it to help the family out.
Totally.
Is that bad to say?
No, feel bad, no guilt. Yep. It's not like
here.
Patreon, you're automatically deducting dollars from people's accounts and they have to like opt out of it. It's all up. It's everybody's choice. So there's no hate on it.
There is kind of this at the beginning of each month when the Patreon starts paying. I kind of look at the number and I'm like, wow, they're still there.
Right.
It's kind of surprising. Maybe not after the day, they'll go, oh, now we got this guy. So we're
Exactly. You'll certainly get no judgment here, but I'll just say in advance, because I know it's bound to happen, thank you for the 2 or 3 dislikes that I just got on this video because of that comment, John. I'm sure there's gonna be people out there.
Well, it's weird. If you bring up quite often Patreon, or I also sell my stuff on eBay. There's some people who you just bring it up and they don't like it. I mean, I can put up a picture of me working on a TIE fighter and it can be seen by, a few hundred people. I can get 50 or 60 likes. If I put up something that says, hey, just letting you know in case you're interested, I have a Patreon, please, consider supporting me. I can immediately in the,
Yeah.
you know how you can see how many likes and unlikes you have? There's an immediate response in the unlikes. I mean,
Yeah.
it's you just see it. And I used to be paranoid about bringing it up. Now I just go, bring it up about once a month and let it go, you know,
Yeah.
and just, that's it.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
Yeah, enough of that before everybody drops me.
Well, let me just show you guys just a little bit real quick what I've been working on, and then we'll talk about some news, and then we'll get back to talking.
Well, yeah, we skipped you were working on.
Yeah.
No, we didn't skip it. We've just been kind of
Oh.
on tangents of what John's working on, which is fine. But
I tried to skip it, but
I showed, and I should show the Gundam. Okay. Anyway, I showed this already on my channel, but I'll just show you guys once again the gold narrative, which came out pretty good. Some imperfections there, but it's very shiny. And already from the start, like I was never a super big fan of the design, even going into it, but I think it came out looking pretty cool. And I like the armed armor shield on it.
I think it looks great, man. It's cool.
I'm happy with how that came out. And then I have it's in the other room, so I can't show it to you guys here. But I did that. I detailed up that internal structure Gundam figure. So I just had a video. I put up the video for that yesterday, 24 hours ago, something like that, or it went up this morning. Anyway, where it was just the Gundam figure. I don't know if maybe you guys didn't see the video, but
no, I haven't seen.
It was half clear and half just like colored.
Yeah, I saw that.
So the colored side, I just detailed up. That was really fun. That's always fun working on that. It's similar to like working on detailing up a Converge figure or something. That was fun. And then my frame arms kit, which I just put up my work in progress video on that, which is it's totally all disassembled, so there's nothing to show on that. But the frame arms kit, I'm really super excited for. I think it's looking really cool. But I'm really struggling trying to figure out the color scheme for it because I actually really liked the colors that it was, just the bare plastic of it.
And you feel like you can't keep it those colors?
Yeah, it's like
for some reason. Yeah.
No, I just can't just paint it back to the same colors that it was.
Oh, damn!
But that color
Do it, Zach. I did my
really
Zeta
cool.
Plus and I just painted it the gray again, the same kit that it was. The colors out of the box. Do it. Have the courage.
That's that's different. For that, I wouldn't feel quite so bad about it. But in this case, I just feel bad about just painting it back to the same colors. But I think so. I haven't decided yet, but I'm thinking for like the main mech, the main frame arms designed to be like in kind of intermediate blue. I don't know if intermediate blue is kind of like a dull kind of blue color. Desaturated blue, light blue. And then for the add-on parts, like the extend arms add-on parts, to be in a darker blue navy, kind of similar, basically what they are in a darker blue, but maybe not quite that dark. So it'd be pretty similar, pretty close to the colors that it was. But I think I'll probably get rid of the red and just have it just be all blue, and then it'll just be having some yellow and white accents on this, or something like that.
That was going to be my next question. What's your little accent pops?
Yeah, like all the on the original kit, all the thruster bells all over the place are all in white, so I'll probably just keep those in white, I think, but maybe do them in like a really bright white. They're kind of like on the kit, they're in like a really light gray off-white kind of color, so I'll make them even brighter so they really pop in. So it'd be, I guess, sort of like a similar color scheme to like what's that? The Schwalbe grays. That was called. McGillis's blue grays, sort of similar to that kind of, but more desaturated, not quite so bright blue.
Yeah,
kind of similar look to that, I think. I can't even remember the last time I've painted anything in blue, so that's why I was thinking. I haven't done anything blue in a really long time, so maybe I should. But I also haven't done anything in gray in a long time. For a while, I was doing everything in gray all the time, but I kind of got away from it, and now I'm thinking, I kind of want to do something in gray again.
Oh, yeah, gray's good.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. Gray is just like, you know what, it's going to look good in gray.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's no question about it. There's no doubts.
So it's clean and weathered.
Yeah. That's. I haven't even got to the point yet where I'm thinking if I want to weather it or not. But I'm trying to finish it by the end of November, while it's still Frame Arms Month here. So I don't know if we'll be able to get to that, but we'll see. Hopefully going to start spraying some primer on Monday, and then painting will only take a couple of days. So I don't know. We'll see. But that's what I'm working on. That, and then I've got a handful of stuff to get to. So yeah, I think immediately after that, hopefully we'll be getting right onto the Master Grade Gyaradoga.
Cool.
That's for a commission that I've had to put off to work on a couple of things that needed to take priority, but need to get around to that. So
that's a cool design.
Yeah.
Such a big kit too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, very big. But like it doesn't have a ton of parts to it, like especially the armor. Because the armor has a lot of pretty large pieces on there, so it's not a super parts heavy kit, but it is very big. Yeah.
Are you gonna paint your Hazen Flay, or is that just gonna be in a box for a while?
It's in a box for a while. It's not in the queue anytime soon. I don't think. Yeah, but we'll see. Yeah, maybe sometime next year.
Yeah. Okay.
But certainly not in the next couple months. I don't think so. It is so cool, though. Of course.
Are you up on John on the Advance of Zeta designs in Gunpla, like the hazels and stuff?
I know a lot of the designs from that. I don't know always which anime they're tied to. I've watched, Iron Blooded Orphans all the way through. Seed Destiny, Wing, 00. But I haven't watched everything. So like those designs, if you show the designs to me and you go, okay, I know what that is, and you go, it's on this anime, I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. But yeah, the more I see of that, the more I'm like, I got to watch that. I got to figure out a way to watch it.
Well, I think is it only a manga, Zach?
Yeah, manga and
I think
novel.
it's just a manga.
Okay. Well, that may be because I'm always looking on Gundam Info and other places to watch stuff. Maybe I've been thinking, okay, where is that, and I haven't found it. That's why. Okay, that makes sense.
Yes. John hasn't got the Advanced Zeta hook yet.
Yeah.
Now I've got something else to pursue.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the lost city of gold of Gunpla, where there's all these designs that have been hung in front of us for just decades, and we're like, please make kits, and they're finally making more kits. So it's really fun.
Man.
Yeah.
Like for 15 years or something, or close to that. I don't know when the first ones came out, but yeah, there was like 4 or 5 high grades from the series, and that was it until just last year or something. 2 years ago. Yeah. So it's a good time to be an Advanced Zeta fan, that's for sure. So it's a good time to get into it. Unfortunately, they're mostly P Bandai now, so that's the problem.
But we're grown-ups with money, so it's okay. Yeah.
No choice.
Yeah, no choice. Yeah.
All right. Speaking of products, Bandai products, let's go over some new stuff here quickly first. Then can talk some more about what John's working on, all that. So first off, here from the Build Divers line, I'm going to assume that neither of you guys are watching the series, as I'm not watching the new Build Divers series, but I'm assuming you guys aren't. Are you, John?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Right. Have you watched the original Build Fighters, and did you like that, John?
Yeah,
Yes.
I was surprised because I saw it and I watched a couple episodes and I thought, okay, this is obviously really little kid. I mean, it is, but it isn't. And because I'm looking for Iron Blooded Orphans episode 3 where they're like executing people and stuff like that. And I started watching it, and when it got to the Build Divers thing, and I looked forward to every Tuesday when it came out, I'm like, okay, I realize I'm totally hooked on this whole series now.
Really?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I like watching it.
Fair play.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering about the guys, those of you guys who are watching live in the chat, how many of you guys are also watching? Alex said he's watching it as well, but okay, maybe more than I expected, but at least I haven't been watching it at all. And Josh, you haven't?
I've been watching Divers. No, I did Build Fighters and Build Fighters Try, but not Divers. Yeah.
But this is the upcoming design here, variation of the same core Gundam and its add-on stuff, so the Earth 3 and the V2 and all that. So this would be the Merc Q1. Name basically combinations of planets and their number.
Yes.
I wonder
Nice.
how they're gonna do Jupiter.
That's not the one I'm wondering about.
Yeah.
Oh.
This one, I haven't seen anything really. And I guess, John, if you've been watching the. Oh, okay. It does say that it's for underwater. Okay. So in my episode last week of Gunpla News, I guessed that this was for water just because that looks like some sort of harpoon gun and like a snorkel mask on his face or something. But yeah, it looks like it is indeed. It is indeed for underwater combat, it says there. So just a new version of that. John or Josh, have either of you guys built the Earth 3 or any variant?
No, I haven't.
I have the one. It's either a variant of that or it may be the Mars one. There's one coming out in December that I've got on pre-order.
It's red?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the Mars 4 then, yeah.
I have it on pre-order at usagundamstore.com.
Very good. Good man. That's out. That just came out in Japan, or that's out this coming weekend anyway? In Japan, but yeah, US Gundam Store will have it next month. But yeah, here's a design. I just noticed as well he's got some flippers on his feet there also.
Yeah, but
naturally.
man, Z Zulu style, yeah.
Yeah. It also reminded me of the Momo Kapul, how it had the duck feet on it.
Yes.
Variation of that. But anyway, it's the mask is kind of interesting. The mask really reminds me a lot of 30-minute missions. It really looks like the mask like the 30-minute missions kids have.
Oh, I don't know those.
That's kind of interesting. There's some really cool 30-minute missions kits. I didn't pull up any of that stuff to look at, but there's some really cool 30-minute mission stuff coming at the beginning of next year. They're finally getting kind of more interesting looking stuff coming out from that line. I like how here on the flyer equipment, how the mask is just like sitting on top of the canopy here on the top.
Yeah.
Very cool. But that'll be out when beginning of next year, or March of next year, so a little bit ways away. The RG new. This is interestingly RG new Gundam with the fin funnel effect set. So basically, as far as I understand it, this is basically it's like this effect part set was what you could get separately, and it's not specifically made for the new Gundam, but you could get it separately. But now they're just packaging it together with the new Gundam. RG, that is one that you should build, Josh.
Yeah,
I think you'd like that.
It is on my. I have a list that I will definitely do, and that's just sitting there waiting, maybe at Christmas time or something like that. Because the unicorn and the Sazabi, it's just insane how solid they are. Yeah.
Oh like man, as well. It's a nice kit, but yeah. So this is just going to be sold, and I guess it's not P Bandai, just as a standard release that you'll be able to get this. The new Gundam with the effect parts there. So as far as I haven't looked into this with too much detail, but I don't think that there's anything in there new that you couldn't get from just buying these sets separately. But if any of you guys watching know more about this, then you can let me know. But I think you can pretty much make this already just by getting this parts separately. But that is coming out. That was a pretty good get, I will say. The Barbatos is not new, but we've got a look at the boxed art for that. I don't think we've looked at the box art for this before, have we?
Yeah,
so cool.
It's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got that one right there.
Oh man, when is this? It's December now.
No, next week.
Yeah, it's
next week.
But
what?
yeah, in the US.
Oh, cool! I get so excited when a new kit comes out and you get to see the builds from Japan straight away. Oh, you get to see all the parts. Oh man, good fun. Yeah, cool.
So, I like how they also incorporated the seam line on the shoulder armor here in the artwork as well. Nice of them.
Yes, cannon seam line. It's in the cannon.
Yep. I guess that means you don't have to get rid of it on the finished model. You can just leave it there.
There you go.
Hey, box art.
At GBWC, Kawaguchi is like, "What's a seam line?" You're like, box art.
You bring the box with you.
Yeah, and he has to bow to you and give you the trophy straight away.
Sorry.
Oh man,
that's funny.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, that maybe they do that to help people with semi OCD. They're like, no, look, it's on the box. You're fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah. I'm hoping that they'll make a master grade. I mean, like, I guess The 1/100 scale grays is a perfectly great kit. I think I like it a lot. But if they're going to be making master grades of these, hopefully they'll make one of the grays as well. It would be cool.
Yeah, you gotta have the enemy. Yeah,
you'd think. We'll see.
You'd think. I mean, it'd be a decent thing to do.
If it's Gundam, you got to have something green with one eye. I mean,
yeah.
Exactly. I think for how many kits they put out in the HG line, it must have been selling well enough that they just kept pumping them out. So I would say hopefully there's enough market there for them to make a good amount of master grades as well. Which there is another bit here. We can just go ahead and skip to this about there was a poll in Japan about what should be the next MG and the Gundam Floros one. I think was this the next MG just in general or next Iron Blood Orphans MG?
Wow.
Next IBO. Would you like to see after the Barbatos? So people voted in Japan to see the Floros next from the Iron Blood Orphans Master Grade lineup.
Gosh.
Which I'm all for. I love the mobile suit design. The transformation is stupid, but
yeah.
The dog with cannons on his back. But I'm disappointed that usually they post on here like the full poll so you can see what the numbers are, the breakdown of them. But apparently, I'm not sure. Okay, no, that's not the link I'm wanting. But anyway, it did have some numbers on there. Hang on, what was that? Floros got 28.8%, and Barbatos Lupus Rex with 16.4. Lupus Rex would be a cool one. It's such a unique design.
And I guess if they did then maybe the Lupus as well. These polls make me so sad because remember the poll with the G self, the MG G self.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, and then I see this poll, and I'm and it's like I'm going to be on my deathbed, and I'm like, oh, we never got the G self MG, and like still be sad my whole life.
Yeah, the polls don't officially mean anything, but it's just interesting to know, Yeah, but that'd be cool. Personally, I would really like a Vidar as well.
Vidar is great.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that was a good one. But all right, let's see some P Bandai HG UC stuff here. We got the Slave Wraith, which is one of 3 in the set. Or hang on, this would be this is the gym with the parachute pack as part of the team there, but there's the team of the 3 different ones. There's the Slave Wraith, the Pixie, and the gym with the backpack.
It's always cool when you got airborne stuff.
Yep, totally.
Yeah, the backpack is super cool. Let's see if there's a shot of the 3 of them together. Should be here. I think this is all stuff that's not new. It's just in different colors from what you could get before in the markings. I'm assuming it's just going to be sticker markings. And the Pixie as well. Here's a shot of the 3 of them. The Pixie as well, I just believe, is just a recolor. Only the Slave Wraith itself, the center one there, is the one that has new parts, I think. And that would be just for the shoulders and the head, essentially. So, but
Slave Wraith, that's a cool name. Jeez.
Yeah, I'm sure that will, just the name alone will help with sales on that.
Yeah.
It'll be like, cool. Yeah. It's got the cool factor there anyway. So, yeah, this is from the Missing Link side story game, as well as this version of the Ifrit as well. I love the HG Ifrit. Big seam lines there on the shoulder in this promo image, right front and center. But this does look super cool because he's got the goof machine gun on the arm and this really cool looking axe.
That's cool.
Cool.
Yeah,
and I like those colors.
He's got the same color scheme as the Ifrit Schneid. But the shoulders are different, and then of course the weapons, everything is different on there as well. The back of the arms, with the spikes and everything on the back arms, that's different as well.
Yeah, that is a cool axe. Yeah,
very interesting. So that's really, really cool. And I wonder if the machine gun parts on there, I'm assuming, are just going to be totally new parts, and this probably not taken from the HGC Goof Custom. But
yeah. Do you reckon, or because it seems similar?
Yeah, I'm sure. That's what I was gonna say. I would wonder how close the design is, but I'm sure it's gonna be new parts on here because it'll probably be a new runner with the parts for all that for the axe and machine gun all on one new runner.
Yeah, of
I would
course.
say.
Yeah.
But while the runner may be new, I'm just wondering if the design, like how close the design is to being like pretty much the same. Like if you could basically just take, as long as you modify the connector, if you could just take those parts from the HGC Goof Custom and just put them on the Ifrit arm, if it would look exactly the same. I'm not sure. The head does also look like it's new as well. You can see a little bit different shape on the head. It's got more just dome at the back.
And what about the Vulcans? Does it normally have the Vulcans?
Yeah, I think maybe it doesn't normally have the Vulcans as well. So yeah, maybe a totally new head for this one as well. Or at least the top part of the head, the eye and the hose parts, that's probably all the same, but just the top part, yeah. So pretty interesting. Not super big into the design of the shoulder armor. Is that the same shoulder armor as just the regular Ifrit?
It looks weird. I'm trying to remember what it is. Ifrit. Oh no, it's got more up angle on the shoulder armor.
I think it's the same mold though. It's just recolored and just the angle looks different.
But look at the you're talking about the orange shoulders?
No.
Oh.
Look over here.
No, sorry. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
that one. Gotcha.
Yeah, and the back of the arm is the same too. So yeah, so it's the shoulders and the armor, and then the head must be probably the same head as well. Yeah, the head. Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah.
So it's all just from the original Ifrit, basically, for the main body. It's just the weapons are different, and it's just different color in the Schneid color scheme. So there you go. All right, there you go. You learn something new every day. I hadn't really looked too much into this. Last time I checked, we only had this like the one image of that, and so I hadn't really looked at it all that closely. But either way, it looks cool. The pink color scheme is definitely more cool, I think.
So nice, yeah.
You're not a badass unless you can rock some pink. I just on a quick side note, I watched Zombieland 2 the other day with my wife. We went to the movie theater, and Woody Harrelson had the line. It's like, what do you say? Something about they went to Graceland to get, and they wanted to take Elvis's pink Cadillac. He said something about like it takes a real man to drive a pink Cadillac, something like that.
Yeah.
There you go.
59 pink Cadillac Eldorado convertible.
Yeah, there you go.
Love that car. Yeah.
Just another P-band deck here. This is the Daughters. This is entirely new.
Wow.
Which is pretty interesting. So a lot of people are making the assumption that we're going to just get a regular Daughters. This is a build diverse variation of that, but people are assuming that we'll get just a regular Daughters out as just a standard release kit, probably as well, which would make sense. But we haven't seen any news about that quite yet. Have you seen this? This gun?
No.
This thing?
It's a big gun.
It's a big gun, and it opens up, and it looks just like it looks very similar to the backpack of the Crossbone Gundam when it's opened up. Except that it bends. Like this photo here, that looks like he's just holding on to a Crossbone backpack.
It does. Yep. Oh man.
Very similar, but it's pretty cool. I mean, I love for its uniqueness. That's for sure.
Wow. The face is weirding me out. It looks like some I don't know, Legend of Zelda elf person or water person or something.
It's growing on me a lot.
A praying mantis. Kind of reminds me
totally.
of a praying mantis.
Yeah, very insect-like, yeah. I don't know. It's growing on me a lot. It's a pretty interesting design. Never really been a big fan of the Daughters in general. I like Gundam X as an anime. John, I would recommend you watch it at some point. It's not, I think it doesn't really have a whole, I don't know. I don't really hear a lot of people talking about it. When you ask people what their favorite series is, pretty almost never hear people mention Gundam X, but I think it was pretty good from what I remember. So I'd recommend it.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's an interesting design there anyway. Then just the last couple things here. We have the Converge Penelope. Looks so cute. Cool.
Oh man.
Look at how long the feet are. Just got these long needle feet off there.
Wow. That's really cute.
You remember in the Looney Tunes cartoons whenever the Roadrunner would drop the rock on the coyote's head and he would walk off like an accordion?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Just squished it down.
Man.
Oh man, I don't know. It's an interesting design, but I think it like pretty much with anything, if you shrink it down to Converge figure scale size, then it's gonna look cooler. So I think it works.
Mm.
Yeah, I like it. And certainly a lot more manageable than the HG, which is just gigantic. Is there, I was hoping there'd be a picture that shows everything that it comes with, because it looks like, I mean, basically it's just going to have swappable feet for having the white feet, and then it's like you have downward pointed feet. It's just probably just swappable ones. But it's pretty much just kind of what you see is what you get there for the most part with the base and everything. But I love converted stuff, as you guys know, so I'm looking forward to that. But how about you guys?
It does look really cool.
I've got a couple on my desk at work, and it confuses the heck out of my boss. He's like, "What are those little things?" And I'm like, "They're just robots."
Yeah.
You wouldn't get it.
Yeah. just say they're Transformers and just.
Yes.
All right, and last thing here is just a G-frame, which is with some more Hazel stuff. The next volume of G-frame was announced to have the Hazel, the Shinanju, and the Jim.
Oh.
So we don't have pictures for those yet, but that'll be cool. That's another thing that I have on my to-do list. I've got the G-frame, Full Armor Gundam, and Goof Custom here, all sanded and prepped for painting. So those are also my painting to-do list in the near future. G-frame, this stuff is pretty cool. They take a little bit of work to get them to look like decent, but they can be cool, I think. I've also got this hubby over there. It's like half painted. And
the plastic is just like a normal Gunpla kit?
Yeah.
Pretty close. Yeah.
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 I had to think about that. I don't think there's any PVC in them. Yeah, no. It's just all regular polystyrene as far as I know, but yeah. But they have a lot of pre-painting on there, and then like just mold lines, seam lines and stuff. They're candy toys, you can't expect too much. But the fair criticism that I hear from a lot of people is that like you have to get both. If you want like the fully articulated form, you have to get both sets, the frame and the armor sets. So like after you get both, and it's going to cost you probably around like $15 for a set of both of the two of them, if not more. So with that, you could buy just a regular HG kit. Just fair enough, but they're still pretty cool. I like them. The few that I've built, and yeah. So looking forward to the Hazel. We'll see how that looks. They're getting better. That's the other thing about the line too, is they do seem to be getting better over time. So I think that'll be pretty cool. That is it for the news stuff for this week. Just a reminder to those of you guys who are watching live is that if you want the full episodes of Gunpla News that I do here on my channel, or that I used to do here on my channel, I'm now doing those on USA Gundam Store's channel. So you can check out the USA Gundam Store channel, where I'll be doing the Gunpla News videos there every 2 weeks instead of just every month. So a little bit different. In case you guys missed the last update about that, just check that out there for more. But anyway. All right. So, John.
Yes, I'm here.
Take it away. The next hour is yours. Go for it.
I wanted to. I saw in the questions. I'm looking at it on my phone, and I saw. I think it was Gunpla Fixation. Ask if I'd ever watched Unicorn. Yes, I have watched Unicorn. I just forgot.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'll have to admit though, when I first started watching the anime, I think the first one I saw was Seed, and I got maybe 4 episodes into it, and I was going, "What is going on? I have no idea what's going on." And maybe it's because I'm an old guy and I fall asleep a lot and don't pay attention. But I finally started realizing, okay, before I watch any of the anime, I go and read up on it on the wiki, and I kind of get a feel of what's going on and who the characters are, and I enjoy it a whole lot more, because now I'm like, okay, now I'm in the story, go, and I watch that. So, yeah, Unicorn was definitely one that helped me to kind of get a figure of who all of that was. So yeah,
for Universal Century, I've always kind of wondered about that. Like if you saw Unicorn before seeing other Universal Century series, how confusing or not confusing that would be. Because in a way, it kind of gives some good backstory to a lot of the Universal Century. But on the other hand, if you have no other kind of knowledge about other Universal Century series, then you might be a little bit confused about a lot of what's going on.
Well, I liked that it actually did kind of give me a bit of backstory on the whole because I came into it. All I knew was I liked the Gunpla. They look cool. I want to build them. They're not airplanes. They look cool. And so I started seeing, and I saw this year numbering system, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And Unicorn kind of explained it to me in a way that I'm like, oh, okay, now I get why they did this. It's not just something sci-fi other universe. This is future timeline, and man decided let's start over our numbering. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. So.
Yeah. Well, you will have to go back, obviously, and watch the original series and Zeta at some point as well.
Yeah, I've watched Zeta, most of that, because I think Gundam Info had it out there a few months back, but I haven't been able to find the original to watch it. I've caught bits and pieces on YouTube. And a guy sent me a link to some Russian site, and I'm like, I'm not logging into some Russian site to see this. I may as well just go ahead and empty my checking account now. I just offended an entire nation, and I apologize, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, I want to go back and see that. I want to. There's a lot of it I want to see. Like I managed to catch War in the Pocket.
Okay, cool.
And I liked it, but at the same time, it was kind of depressing. You know? And so I've seen quite a few of them. I tend to watch things more than once. I think I've gone through IBO 3 times now.
Oh, really?
Unicorn twice. Because sometimes you watch it and you're paying attention to the storyline, and especially if it's subtitled, I'm having to read everything. And so I go back and watch it a second time so I can kind of look at the visuals and try and put more together, and it's fun that way.
Well, yeah. War in the Pocket is now, it's one of those ones that it's like a really depressing movie that you watch it and you're like, that was really good, but I don't really want to watch it again.
Yeah. Once is enough. Yeah.
Like every now and then I'll go back and rewatch some of the action scenes from that because they're really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the story in general is not one that I like. But 8th MS Team is another example of just a short series, but it's a lot more fun to watch, I think.
Yeah.
8th MS Team was great. All right. But what I wanted to ask you, John, was to go back to just how you were introduced to Gunpla or sci-fi, or when you first got into sci-fi, was it Gunpla or something else? Or
It was summer 2016. I had been back in the hobby for 10 years and had built around 275 aircraft, almost all single-engine World War II fighters. And I enjoyed it while I was doing it. I got into doing commission builds. And commission builds, when somebody says, oh, I'm doing a commission build, I'm like, have you done 20? Have you done 30? Have you done... You do enough commission builds, they suck the life out of you. Because, I put pressure on myself now to work, but commission builds, you have to do it. And it's not even you committed to it, people paid you money, so you do it. Well, commission builds, I'd kind of let it get out of control. And I was getting absolutely sick of building aircraft to the point that I began to say, I'm just going to finish these commission builds. I'm going to sell all my stuff and I'm going to walk away from the hobby. But I started, thinking that I know my history. My history is my first thought is the thought of an idiot. And so I might want to rethink that. And so I just started watching some YouTube videos. And I saw Model Making Guru doing his PG Zaku 2. And I'm looking at it going, this looks really interesting. I had no idea what a PG was, what a Zaku 2 was. I just knew this looked different and cool. And I watched it, and as I tend to do when I'm watching anything, I sit in here and look at my TV, and I'm sitting on the recliner. I get about 15 minutes of watching, and then I drift off for 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes of watching. Well, when I woke back up, there was a video that Mig Jimenez did where he's weathering a Zaku 2 and doing some chipping on it. You may have seen that. And I'm like, I got to go check these out. So there's a store here in town that carries them. Well, I go in, and there's just these stacks. You know how it is. There's these stacks of these colorful boxes, and I'm looking at this going, you get overwhelmed. It's like going into a candy store. Where do you start?
Mm.
And I know nothing about them. I don't know what any of the anime is. I don't know what any of the names are, but I'm just looking at them and going, these look really cool, but
Mm.
I didn't have a lot of cash. So I found, what is it? What's the one in, the Gray's Custom from
Okay.
IBO, the 144 scale kit. And it was like $12. And I'm like, okay,
Mm.
I'll spend $12. And if I totally hate this, I'm out of cheeseburger and fries.
Yeah.
And so I got home and I thought, I'm just gonna do this like the instructions say. Clip the parts off, snap it together, and I get done with it. I'm playing around and making pew 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 noises, and I'm having a good time with it. And it's still, I know nothing about the anime. I mean, there's this little angry dude on the front. And I'm like, why is this dude so angry? And I started calling it the angry dude robot. And so I started watching Iron Blooded Orphans, and I went back and I did just like a quick dry brush paint, nothing fancy. I mean, like an afternoon kind of thing.
Mm.
And I got done and I thought, well, this is pretty cool, but what if I want to do something more? And I'm like, wait, you can take it apart and you can redo it. So I did a full paint job on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so hooked. I thought, okay, once I get done with these commissions, I'm not building anything but Gunpla. I actually bought the domain name buildinggundam.com. Because I actually started a website briefly, but I realized as I started branching out into other sci-fi, I thought, well, I got to do something else. But yeah, I built that one, and then the next one was the Sniper 2, which absolutely the master grade kit that absolutely sold me on the genre, because you know how like you're building the shoulder, the little pistons and things that work.
Oh.
I'm like, how cool is that? I remember going to showing my wife, look, if you move it, the little things move. And she's like, that's nice to me. And then as I got into Gunpla, it kind of opened my eyes to other stuff. And then I found out Bandai does these Star Wars kits. And then I found out about 40K. And I just kept wanting to build more and more and more. And then I saw Link doing Machining Krieger, and I started doing that. So it really was kind of like taking all of that stuff that I'd done before, which I had fun doing at the time, but I overdid it. I didn't give myself any relief valves. And so I just dove into the sci-fi genre. I think of all of them, I still like Gunpla the best. Because there's just something about it that appeals to me. I like the 40K stuff. I like the Star Wars stuff. I like Machining Krieger, but there's just something about, I always think in terms, if you read my blog, I always talk about 10-year-old John, 12-year-old John. 10-year-old John would totally love Gunpla. I mean, it's if I'm making 10-year-old John happy, then I'm happy. Because I can see me sitting there as a kid, if I would have been watching the anime and putting the kids together with my friends and making them fight, and doing all that stuff. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah.
So I think of all of them, that's the one that still, if I'm feeling a little bored or a kit's going a little long in terms of, because you know how it is, if you're building one, especially if you're putting it up for video or you're writing about it a lot, sometimes you get to the point where you go, I'm ready for it to be over with. Gunpla is definitely still a relief valve for me that, okay, I can just pull one out, snap it up, put it back in the box for later use, and I just had an afternoon of total fun, So, and now since then I've been working on the side on a few tanks. I've still got some aircraft going, so I haven't totally abandoned all that stuff, but sci-fi is just really, really where my focus is now.
Well, John, I have a question. Because all that time that you were doing modeling and primarily this aircraft and all that, whenever you went to the hobby store, did you just never see the Gunpla stuff, or was it just like never in the stock before, or what? How did you never see it before?
The shop that I went to, that I've been going to for years. Can I give him a shout out? Is that okay? Hayes Hobby House in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I've been going there for years. They had sci-fi, but they didn't have Gunpla. And they've got one long shelf that's just airplanes, and then the other side is tanks and sci-fi and other things. So I tended to just look at the airplanes.
Oh, okay.
And I knew other guys who did sci-fi, but I would look at maybe these AMT kits or some of these older sci-fi kits, and I'm looking at the seam lines, and I'm going, it just doesn't pull me as much.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, when I walked in and told the guy, my friend Mike that works there, when I said, well, guess what? I'm building Gundam. And he goes, what?
Yeah.
and I started showing him, okay, yeah, I built this one, and I bought this one, and I bought this one. He's like, where are you getting those? I'm like, I'm getting them off Amazon and eBay and stuff. Like a couple of weeks later, he takes me around to the other side where they got their sci-fi stuff, and he goes, look, and it just stacked up. Gundam, they started carrying Gundam, and they keep selling them.
Yeah.
And so it was my exposure, because I was so aircraft focused. You know how it is. If you're focused in one genre, that tends to be what you look at. And I had always just thought I'd equated Gundam with Transformers. I mean, I knew there were different series, but I just thought, okay, like when my son was growing up, he was completely into Power Rangers. And I equated Gunpla or Gundam to Power Rangers, that it's this suit and kids build it and it goes with a cartoon and it's really cool. And everybody told me they were well put together, but I'm still thinking in terms of Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And it's when I saw those first few YouTube videos, when I started watching your stuff, Zach, I started going, whoa, this is as serious a modeling genre as aircraft and tanks and everything else. And I had just never known about it. So it really was a fall in the rabbit hole kind of moment for me, that I'm just discovering all of this stuff. And it was funny because I'd make friends online that were into Gunpla, and I would go, hey, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this? And they're like, yeah, dude, we've known about it for years. I'm running around holding them up going, look. It was a lot of enthusiasm. I still have it. It's still fun to do,
Yeah, and someone had asked that question, so I mean, you're kind of basically going into this same kind of realm of answering the question. And someone was asking about bringing in, or like the appeal to IPMS shows and just like the people who are normally doing that type of military models and bringing them into. And you recently wrote an article about that, and it's kind of a recent kind of small issue.
Yeah, I've actually I've gone to, this last year, I've gone to 3 IPMS shows, one in Richmond, one up in Raleigh, North Carolina near me, and one down in Columbia, South Carolina. And then I that article you referenced, which is on my blog, it's interesting. We especially saw it in Richmond at the show there. One of the guys who organized it contacted me. He knew that I'd started getting into Gunpla, and he said, hey, we've added 2 Gunpla categories, just thought you might like to know. And so I was like, I know who will do something with this. And so I contacted Joel Stone, and I said, hey, guess what? And I kind of, told him they were going to have this, and he was like, oh, well, maybe we can get something there. And I just jokingly said, yeah, wouldn't it be cool if you could get 100 Gunpla on the tables? And they ended up getting close to it. I mean, like 90 or 90.
Whoa.
Yeah. It was like 10% of the models that were there. And that show in Richmond is one of the biggest on the East Coast. So I used to be very involved in IPMS, and for reasons I won't dive too deep into, I kind of got out of it. But before I discovered Gunpla, I always thought, okay, scale models are going to die away. Because I had done a survey a few years ago on my site, and most modelers were over 50. Most of them had hundreds of kits in their stash. They maybe built a couple per year. And I'm thinking, okay, the averages say we're all going to be dead in 25 to 30 years. This hobby, there's not young people coming to the IPMS shows that I went to. I mean, this is no joke. When I would get to the IPMS show, if I was going out of town, I'd call my wife and I'd say, I must be in the right place because there's a bunch of old men shuffling towards the bathroom. And I'm one of them. And then when the guys from North Carolina showed up at Old Dominion, and they were so enthusiastic, and they put all these Gunpla on the table, I started realizing no, the hobby's not dying away. It's changing, it's evolving. And then as I pointed out in that article a few days back, that blog article, Bandai, if you don't know who Bandai is, you don't understand how huge they are. When it was announced recently that a major online model seller here in the U.S. was going to start carrying Gunpla. And so most of the comments about that were positive from traditional model guys. We're positive. Hey, great that they're doing that. That's fine. And somebody made a comment, and it wasn't a negative comment, but they said, well, hopefully that'll help them, become successful. And that was the exact reaction I had. I'm like, and so that's when I started doing even more research into the numbers. And as I pointed out in that blog article, Bandai is the number 2 brand valued toy franchise in the world. It's only behind Lego. It's in front of Mattel. It's in front of Hasbro. It's even in front of My Pretty Pony. Gundam is the 7th highest rated brand value. They've sold 12.5 million kits per year for 40 years. You can take all other traditional modeling combined, and I don't think it would exceed that. So I've realized now that the hobby is evolving, and as it relates to IPMS, whose job is to promote the hobby. What I'm hoping is that I described it in the article that right now when I go to the shows, it's still a good thing, but you see this bubble of IPMS and this bubble of Gunpla, and they get together and they hover around each other, and everybody's smiling and having a good time. I'd like to see those bubbles burst, and that everybody's okay with the fact that, well, the genre you may like may not be the genre I prefer, but I can learn from you and you can learn from me, and I like your stuff because it's cool and you like my stuff because it's cool. And it's no different than if it were an aircraft guy and a tank guy and a submarine guy were out there talking. The common thing we share is that for some reason we like taking pieces of plastic, put it together, and painting it. And so I think in promoting the hobby, it's not only good for the hobby, it's good for the genres, that it continues to move towards not an us and them mentality. And I don't say that in a negative way, but in the like I was talking about the bubbles, but rather small scale modelers, so you may be totally into Gunpla. I think one of the things that's hard for traditional guys to understand is that in a whole bunch of the world, taking a kit that's bare plastic, snapping it together, using some markers and some simple finishing techniques is a legitimate build. If you do that with an Edward Spitfire, okay, I'm going to take it, I'm going to glue it together, and I'm just going to panel line it. It's a gray airplane with nothing on it but panel lining. And in their minds, they go, I don't see how that's a legitimate build. And so that's what I'm talking about. These bubbles have to burst to go, okay, what happens in that world is okay because that's something that is prized there. It's hard to take a bare plastic kit and how do you deal with the seam lines? If you're not painting it, that takes some skill. So I think there's a lot that's still going to happen and it's going to grow. But the fact that, Bandai bought the majority shareholder in Bluefin, they see the North American market as growing, and there's only going to be more. But I told one guy, he said, well, I just don't like all this Gunpla stuff. I'm like, well, you better get used to it. Because there's money to be made. Because, any other company talks in terms of maybe millions of dollars of sales. Bandai talks in terms of billions. So it's huge.
That's what I'm wondering is about, like, for the traditional IPMS guys, like kind of like basically what you were before and like how you got into Gunpla. I've heard about that from other people as well. Like I'll every now and then get a message from someone who's like, hey, I'm an old guy who used to be just into military models, and I recently started getting into Gunpla and stuff. So I hear that story every now and then, but I'm wondering, just from your experience, what you think about like just the majority of those guys. You think if they gave Gunpla a chance, they would like it, or it's just because it's something new and interesting, and like they are still using all like you were still able to use like a lot of your experience and knowledge and then kind of apply that to Gunpla? Or do you think it's just something that maybe just a few of them might like, but the majority of them, even if they try, they would still just not really be into it?
Well, to answer that, let me reverse it briefly.
Mm.
If I came to you and said, look, man, I have been building airplanes for decades and I love them, and I think they're the most fun thing ever. And I gave you 20 Spitfire kits or P-51s or whatever. And you said, okay, yeah, I'll try one. The percentage chance that you would go, wow, I totally like this better than anything I'm already doing is fairly low. That's okay. So I think when you reverse it, when your traditional guys, and I can tie this, I guess you'd say, to anecdotal evidence, a lot of guys that knew me as an airplane builder and they saw I started building Gunpla, especially here locally, a lot of guys said, I'm going to try this. And a small percentage tried it and they go, oh, I really like this. I'm not going to do it exclusively necessarily, but I'm going to start doing some of it and incorporate it in because I just had fun with it.
Yeah.
A few of them said I had fun with it, but I don't know if I'll do it again just because it didn't totally grab me. Okay. The majority of them, the thing you have to remember with older modelers, and this is based on a survey that I did back in 2015 on my blog, you can have guys that will have literally thousands of kits in their stash. And when you say, how many models have you built in the last year? They go, I haven't built a model in 5 years. So a lot of what you see online are guys, traditional modelers, that say, oh, I'd never build that. And if you really dig, you find out you haven't built anything in years. And it gets back to what I was talking about with the two bubbles, that they need to just burst and work together. It's no airplane builder looks at, say, submarine builders and says you're not legitimate. They go, you're a legitimate builder. I think it's just helpful if you say Gunpla is a different genre and it's legitimate in its own way, even if I don't totally get it. The same way that a Gunpla guy goes into an IPMS show. I saw this, and again, I don't mean it to be criticism, because it's two worlds coming together for the first time, not for the first time in a big way. Gunpla guys would stand around their table and they would talk and they would have a good time, and they were kind of focused on the table. And I would see a couple turn and start looking around going, oh wow, there's some other cool stuff here. But it was slow venturing out from that table into the other world, and from the other world slow venturing in to look at it. You know, so I think it's just that way with any genre. You're rarely going to find somebody like me who's so totally focused on one, and then just, you know, figuratively falls and hits their head and comes up and goes, you know.
I guess
totally changes. So I think the majority of the IPMS guys, they're going to go, you know, the best you're going to get is, hey, that's pretty cool, that's pretty neat, I'm still going to build what I build. I think that's the reality of it.
So it seems kind of like basically what like the ideal goal would be was to get people to think less of themselves as like, I'm an aircraft modeler or I'm a Gunpla modeler, and just think of, I just build stuff that I think looks cool. Essentially.
Because it's when you start thinking of, and this is one of the things I try to have as an underlying theme in my blog, is having fun, you know. And if you're not inward focused, if you're not looking at, well, I'm the end all be all, and if you're looking outside at your fellow modelers, and if you're thinking, as long as they're having fun, I'm totally okay with that, it changes your whole perspective on modelers, on models, you know, because it's quite often we tend to think in terms of what I do is legitimate and the way I do is legitimate, and everything apart from that is outside of what I determine as legitimacy. Even if we don't necessarily think it that way, that's the way we act it out. And if we kind of reverse that and say, okay, you're doing this, and if the question becomes, did you have fun? And they go, yeah, I totally had fun. Then you go, oh, that's awesome. You know, you're more invested in your fellow modelers enjoying the hobby than you are your perception of what's right and wrong. Because face it, it's so subjective. You can't, whether it's sci-fi or traditional. I mean, if I take a Spitfire and paint it like an RX-78-2, nobody can tell me if I had fun that that's not legitimate. You know, they may think it's weird. They may walk off and go, that guy's kind of weird. But, you know, The question I have, people will email me every now and then, and they'll send me some pictures, and they'll say, "Can you critique my model?" And I'm real careful about that because I always ask, "Did you have fun?"
Yeah.
You know, if you had fun, that's all the critique that's needed. Now, if you've got specific questions, okay, I didn't have fun on this part. I was trying to fill this seam line, and I had a lot of problems with that. You know, then I could go, yeah, I see the seam line. It looks like you just have some problems. Here's some ways you can do it. But when you focus on, did you have fun with it? Did you enjoy it? When your fellow modeler's enjoyment of the hobby is your primary goal, when you're dealing with other people, it totally changes the perspective on it, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And group hug, you know, but but I really think it works that way.
I get that as well, as you might imagine. I'll get two different types of that message. I'll get people sending me photos of their work with a specific question, like, what do you think about this? Or do you think that this like weapon works with this kit or something like that? Where that's much easier to answer with a, yeah, I think it works or not. But then you get the other ones that is just like showing your model and, hey, what do you think of this in general? It's like, it's going on your shelf. It doesn't really matter all that much.
Yeah. And it's such a loaded question because sometimes, and I mean, this is going to sound harsh to say, but sometimes we don't have an accurate view of our work. Sometimes we do really good work and we think it totally stinks. But there's sometimes people do, you got to admit it, you've seen it. Sometimes people do work that totally stinks. Yeah. And they go, this is the best thing ever. Yeah. And one time, a couple of years back, a guy emailed me, sent me some photos of an airplane. And all he said was, could you help me out by critiquing my work? Now, it looked like a novice modeler building something for the first time. They didn't know about filling seams. It was all brush painted very roughly. I mean, it was a rough looking model. And so I went through and I tried to be very objective about, you know, it looks like you try to do this here. One way you could make the paint look better is to thin it, put it on in multiple layers. You know, you need to remove the seam lines from here. And I just listed these whole things. And the guy came back and he's like, well, you know, everybody at my club told me this was a really super job. And I just don't think you need to be so harsh. You know? Oh no. Yeah. And I was like, bye. Okay. And I tried to write back and I'm like, look, I was trying to be helpful. I wasn't trying to be harsh, but you know how it is. Once you get to that point, you're evil. And so I just backed off. And now when people send something to me and I'm letting the cat out of the bag, but now I just tend to say, wow, it looks like you had a lot of fun with that. Yeah. And if they go, yeah, thanks, I did. And that's it. I'm like, I'm off. Now, if they say, okay, well, I did, but here's what I see. Yeah. You know, sometimes I'll press people. I'll say, well, what did you have problems with? What would you like to improve on? And then there've been times that I have seen people send that I knew personally. They would put pictures of their models online, and what everybody else didn't know is they had some sort of physical or perhaps processing disability. And so what they put out there was literally the absolute best they could do. And everybody else would go, you know, this looks like, and they would just have just awful statements. And I'm like, you don't realize what this person is facing. You know, they may have all sorts of physical disabilities that they deal with, but because the person doesn't know that. So I've gotten real careful about, you know,
for sure,
what I say.
Yeah, I do that question a lot when people ask me. They're like, oh, what do you think about this? Or can you give me some tips? And I'm like, what's your specifics? What did you like about it? What was your goal? What were you hoping to achieve with it? And I do the thing like, man, did you have fun? Because that's the main point. Yeah. I did a video about, you know, the basics of airbrushing. The first video was just one, just where I just talked. And the point of it was airbrushing is about thinning, air pressure, and practice. I mean, I said that for 30 minutes, but I mean, that's the basic point of it. You're like one of those YouTube videos where it's like that like meme for like 10 hours.
Yeah. And after I put it out, a guy sent me a really nice email. He goes, that was really helpful. It explained a lot. I appreciate that. And he goes, but what would you say is the one secret? And yes. I'm like, dude, there is no one secret. And he finally kept pushing me. I said, okay, look, the secret is to get your thinning and your air pressure right on 300 models. Okay, because that's what I was at the time. I said that's the secret. You have to do it. You can't be afraid to fail. And he still was kind of like, oh, "Is that it? I mean, is there, you know?"
And you're like, no, you've asked me 25 times. Now you get this real secret. Here it is.
Yeah. Since you have persisted, my son.
Yeah.
You know, the real secret is you have to do this at 3 a.m. wearing blue underwear. I mean, what else are you going to say?
Mm. Yeah, exactly. You just have to try. You just have to go for it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I know. I hate it whenever I do respond to somebody and I'm like, man, you just got to practice. I destroyed some high grade kits doing panel lining. Mine were terrible, and I hate it. Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear it's like if you go to a weightlifter and you say, how did you get those muscles? And he's like, well, I've been in the gym for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
And they want to go, no, but really, how'd you do it?
Yeah. Can I buy those muscles off you and put them on you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the other thing is the practice thing is I haven't practiced anything I don't enjoy. I enjoy airbrushing. I enjoy detailing. It's not like I'm like, okay, I've got to sit here and do my panel lining. I was having fun the whole time. I don't know how you practice something you don't enjoy. So I'm like, if you don't like it and you're not interested in it, don't stick yourself down and make yourself do it.
I do it a little both ways. There are times where I do a build and I'm going to go, okay, I'm just only going to do things that I'm comfortable with for this build. Then there's other times I identify something in builds that I go, this is something that I still have difficulty doing, and I'm going to do it because it's hard. Because there have been other things that were hard that I learned, and when I first started airbrushing, I thought this is the stupidest thing ever. I wanted to throw my airbrush across the room. Now I love airbrushing. So like I in the last year and a half or so, I've started building some machining Krieger kits, and I built one. It was my first doing the Lincoln Wright hand painted lacquer kind of stuff. And I'm going to tell you, that was different. He told me later, he said, you picked the hardest one to do. Cause I undercoated it in a dark primer, and then I tried white over the top of it.
I did the same thing.
I first started painting it, and all of a sudden it's like chocolate brown. I mean, it's just coffee colored. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Yeah. And it was quite a learning curve to even just try and get it presentable. And I put it out there, and and most people were saying, hey, that looks cool, and I think I managed to recover from it. Somebody, though, they said, that looks awful, dude. And I kind of sent them privately. I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm learning. But I think for me, sometimes pushing myself in those areas that I don't enjoy helps me to grow. Now, if there's something I do, like I've tried to get on the good side of photo etch, and I've realized I can put on photo etch. I can use photo etch. The techniques for photo etch, I don't have any problem with. I hate photo etch. I finally realized I just hate photo etch, period. So there's some things that I just don't do because I just can't stand them. But yeah, like, hand painted details or something like that. Sometimes I do it just to stretch myself. And if it doesn't look all that good, there's always weathering, so.
Yeah. For sure. Well, actually, John, the next thing that I wanted to be sure that we get in here while we still have some time that's a good transition into that, because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about just like the actual modeling processes, if we can.
Sure.
About like some of the steps because one thing that I really like about following your work, and one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, is because you do have such a wide variety of stuff that you're doing all the time. So that you're able to do Gunpla and Machining Krieger, and of course your aircraft and Star Wars stuff, and it's all at a really high level. So
thank you.
What are some of of course, you're welcome. What are some of the steps that you really like or dislike? Obviously you said you hate photo etch, you love airbrushing, but what are the things you like, dislike, things you're still working on, or things you would recommend to people?
When it comes to, say, the basic construction of any kit, whether it's an airplane, Machining Krieger, Gunpla, whatever, I don't like or dislike that. I've found there are some steps I take, lots of test fitting, understanding that how that initial build process goes, that's the basis for how the rest of it is going to go. So that's one of those things that I pay attention to more as craft than ooh, I love this part, because I know that doing that, paying attention to that early on, will contribute to the things that I find more fun later. So I think the basic build stuff, dealing with seam lines, dealing with ill-fitting parts, that's a real important aspect to it, that I see as kind of a craft thing. Then when I get to the basic painting, I mean, you know, whether you prime it or not, when I get to the basic painting, that for me is fun. I've airbrushed enough that I feel really comfortable with my airbrushing. I've been forcing myself to do a lot of hand painting, and I found brush painting. I actually love brush painting. I'm not where I want to be at it, but I keep doing it. Just this morning, that rock grinder that I'm working on, I mean, I was just painting all sorts of little details. So that's a part of it that I work on, and I deliberately try different things. Let me thin the paint a little more, a little less. What brand do I like? There's not a whole lot of difference sometimes, but sometimes in key areas there is. Then, you know, decals are decals. It was kind of weird for me. Let me bring this up. It's kind of weird for me coming from the aircraft world, where decals are just part of every build. It was weird to get to the Gunpla world, and people were going, decaling is just totally intimidating for me, which was odd when I encountered that, because I thought they're in every kit, and then I realized no, Bandai, you know, they make millions of dollars to put stickers in them, you know? And so, you know, I like decaling. With decaling, it's kind of like playing a video game. You don't want to just play through the game. You want to finish that level and finish it well, and you want to destroy everything and get the highest amount of points you can. With decaling, I want to go, okay, I want to try and make this as perfect as possible. Not so much because it looks good, but because of the challenge of it. And then where I have my fun, my biggest amount of fun, is absolutely in weathering. There have been times I've started a build and I would go, okay, I'm going to do restrained weathering on this, and by the end, it looks like you just threw it in the mud, but I had so much fun with it. But I kind of treat each section of the process as its own distinct thing, but with always a mind towards where's this going to go. You know, when I'm painting, I want to think in terms of, okay, if I do these colors, how is this going to work out when I weather it with chipping? And what's the contrast going to be? What's the, you know, how does this step early on affect the steps later on? Especially like with Gunpla. You know, there's times when you have like a piece of, like the calf armor, where there's going to be a seam line. But you've got to build the inner frame first and paint the inner frame, and then you've got to paint the armor. And if you paint the armor first and put it together, then you have to deal with the seam line. And it may not be so successful to mask it off, clean it up, sand it, then repaint it. And a lot of times in the pre-build process, I'll go in and say, you know, I want to get my scriber, and I'm going to scribe a line in there, and that's now a panel line.
Yes.
And so part of my process is always thinking towards, how is this going to work in the later stages? And I probably should have said this at the beginning. I even start off with just the instructions and the parts, and I go through and I make notes to say, okay, there's going to be a seam line here. How are you going to deal with this? And just go from there. So did I answer the question, or did I just start rambling again?
No.
That's good.
Yeah. I wanted to know about just some of your thoughts on different steps of the process and things like that. What I do want to know, though, because you mentioned about how you kind of just recently got into trying out Lincoln's lacquer brush painting, but just aside from that, what are some, if you have any like specific technique, or even not even just a specific technique, maybe some model property, something that you're looking forward to trying that you haven't really tried yet, whether it be a technique or a specific model property or something?
Yeah, I've actually got a ship that I want to build. I got the battleship USS North Carolina that I'm going to build sometime next year. I built a ship when I was a kid, one ship. And I'm looking forward to that because it's going to be so totally different. The scale is so totally different. I'm looking forward to that. I want to Josh, your book is inspiring me. We talked about this. I can't remember if it was earlier on in this live part or if we were talking about it before we went live. But I'm looking at your book and going, I got to figure out how to do this. And I'm taking little baby steps towards it. If I'm using sheet plastic for something else, I'll cut some pieces up and say, okay, I'm going to take half an hour just to glue shapes together and scribe into them and do, little subsets of what I see in your book. So, which everyone should buy because it's awesome. and so that's another thing, because I like building Gunpla out of the box, but when I see these that have had so much extra work on them, and and it may not even be adding pieces, but just scribing in all of this intricate detail and things. And I look at that and I go, man, that is so cool. I want to do that. I know how to scribe. I know how to do all of that. But as you know, it takes experience to not just do the task, but to have the vision in your head of how it should look so that it looks good. And you get that, of course, through experience. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. I've been experimenting with painting, I guess you'd say, hand brush painted art onto some of my kids.
Yeah, cool.
I did a throwback, a TBT the other day of one of the machining career kits I did with the shark mouth on it. That I painted on, and that was a lot of fun. And there have been a couple of other things that I've done like that I want to start incorporating more of that, because it gets that creative juice really flowing. And when you can put something on a model and then somebody looks at it and they go, where did you get that? I just did it. Can I get that? Yeah, you just paint it just like that.
And just paint it.
It really stretches you. So that's something that excites me. Another thing I want to do, which I have started out about 3 or 4 times to do, and I've never been able to do it, is I want to do a really clean Gundam build. Not, maybe not necessarily scribing it. Just do one that's clean, that's really tight, that's really precise, because I start doing it and I'm like, well, maybe just a little chipping here, maybe just a little chipping there. And before long, it's a grunt suit. And so I've set as one of my goals next year to do a couple of them that don't have weathering, that are as clean and precise as I can get it, because I've always thought it's harder to do a really clean, precise build than a weathered build, because you can weather the heck out of mistakes. If you ever see any of my work and there's a place where on the kit there's a seam line and there's lots of mud there, I forgot to cover the seam line. But doing a really clean build, again, your book, Josh, has kind of really pointed me that way. Doing a really clean build is one that's tough, but it pushes me, because you have to be precise the whole way. There can't be an oops or I forgot to do that. You really got to take it much slower and much more deliberate, I think, to have success in that.
Do you follow any people on Twitter, like Japanese builders or anything, that do clean builds?
I'm not.
Yupa.
Yeah.
Really, I don't look at Twitter much. I tend to be more on Facebook and Instagram. The part of the problem I have, I think I mentioned this, I've got a full-time day job. So 40 hours a week, I'm doing that. Another about 45 hours a week, I'm sitting here working. And it's real hard to find time, because you know how you can get lost in the socials. You can start scrolling through Facebook and you're 3 hours later and you're like, wait, what, what just happened? And so I would like to know a lot of these folks. But a lot of times, and maybe I've heard people talk about, okay, I set aside half an hour today that I just look at social media, and maybe I need to start doing that and looking for ones that inspire me. There are a few that I follow either on Facebook or on Instagram, and I'll go look through their stuff. If I'm looking for inspiration, I'll just start saving images and looking at it. But there's so much. That's one of the things that traditional builders, I think when they come over in the Gunpla world, they think, okay, there's a few people doing some really high level stuff and the rest are kids doing it. You start really digging around, you find that there's probably orders of magnitude of people doing builds that are as advanced and as thorough as any traditional modeler builds, or more, in far greater numbers. You know, and so much of it is people and languages that, because I'm not familiar with, it's like you don't even know to go where to look.
Yeah.
You know, I thought, okay, for the longest time, I thought that Zach and Model Making Guru and Link, I'm like, okay, these are the primary Gunpla people. That's all I had seen early on in the process. And then they started introducing more and more, and I started getting on there, and I started seeing, you know, builders from Japan, builders from Korea, builders from the Philippines, from places that I wouldn't normally see. And they started inspiring me. And you know, you can really get caught up where you're just scrolling and saving. So it's hard to find that balance when you know, Zach, the publishing schedule rules everything. You know, if you're going to get X number of things up per week, you have to put in the time. And other things, I don't watch TV anymore. I haven't watched a football game or a race in like 3 years. I just got out of it, and that used to be my entire weekend. So.
Well, we might have to, because Zach and I, we bond over the Japanese builders that we follow. I'm like, dude, look how clean this is. Look at the orange that he's put on here. And I really like Twitter because I mainly only follow Japanese people. I can't read what they're saying. So to me, I'm just going for nice photos, and I go, oh, look at that. And it's just an arm that's in primer. And I'm like, look at that. It's just wonderful. So I really like it. It's just fun to look through.
Email me some names, and I will definitely check them out.
We might have to set up like a little messenger thing if you don't have time. We'll just send you really good photos that we've like pre-screened of like really nice builds, and then you can just have them there.
I'd love it.
I'd
love it.
I can totally understand, John, how you maybe haven't gotten. I don't know if you even have a Twitter account or you haven't gotten into it much yet.
I do, and I'm thankful for all 27 followers or however many I have on there.
See, I was the same when I first started using it. I just really wasn't using it that much because I was thinking like I'm using YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. I don't really need this other thing that I'm trying to use. And so, most of the time I don't really use it that much for sharing anything of mine. I'm just looking at what other people do. It's just a source of information, inspiration.
I'll have to check that out and get some names of people to follow so I can see that.
There's loads.
Because the whole point is there are some clean builds on there where you just go, this is just delicious. This looks so nice.
Every now and then I'll see one that'll show up on one of the socials, and maybe it gets shared like on Facebook. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, there is no way that they didn't just recast these parts in glossy plastic because there's just no way a human being could paint that way. And it just amazes me. And especially when you see someone who takes it, does the colors so nicely, but not only did they do the colors nicely, but they chose the palette well. And that just astounds me when, you know, because that's another thing I'm working on. Link has really, not him deliberately, but just watching his stuff and listening to him talk, has really pushed me towards get a grasp on color theory, not just red and yellow make orange color theory, but talking in terms of, you know, values and saturation and you know, real color theory. And when I see that on some of these builds, I'm like, it just all fits. It just all is one piece, you know, and it just works. So I love seeing those.
It's been really interesting. I think it's been a couple episodes back, but when we were talking about clean builds with someone else, I can't remember who it was, but it's been really interesting. It's really only been like the past year or so that I've really kind of come to realize how, I just want to say how good clean builds can be. Because for me, like for the most part, pretty much most of what I've done has been clean builds, but just because I thought that actually in my mind, like weathering and all that stuff was like the higher step, and so clean builds was just like
me too,
the basic step. But then you hear from people like you who are saying like you normally do weathering stuff, that clean build is something I can't do that, it's too hard. So it's really interesting to hear that kind of different perspective on that. From it's not really that one particular style is actually more advanced than the other, but they're both difficult in different ways.
They have their own nuances.
Mhm.
You know, because you're right. If somebody's never weathered anything,
Mhm.
there's a few folks that I converse with fairly frequently, and they ask me a lot of weathering questions.
Mhm.
And a lot of it's just if you don't know the techniques for
Mhm.
how to do it, it can seem like a mystery.
Mhm.
But at the same time, you know, I tend to be very ham-fisted with my work, and I'm like, how do you keep it that clean the whole time?
Mhm.
One guy I was talking to, I was asking him, I said, how do you keep this clean the whole time? And he answered back like, you know, something like, really? And I'm like, yeah, really.
Mhm.
And he goes, I wear rubber gloves. And I'm like, oh, duh. I mean,
Yes.
Mhm.
how easy was that? But,
Yeah.
you know, when you're not worried about smudging paint because you know you're going to be chipping it, you don't necessarily think in those terms. So,
Mhm.
yeah, but that's kind of a thing that's a little bit of a mystery for me. I mean, I can describe how to do it,
Mhm.
but when I've tried it, it's so hard. Did you see Link did a Barbatos lupus a few months back?
Yeah, his
And
clean
he
one.
did really clean with
Yeah.
just some little tiny traces of things. I'm
Yeah.
looking at that, and I actually started building something and saying, okay, I'm going to do this tiny little stuff just like you did. And I get done, and I'm like, wait, mine looks like it's been sitting in the rust yard because I always
Mhm.
that restraint, that I guess you'd say that tastiness, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, I love Jimmy Page, but when you listen to Randy Rhoads, he is so much more precise. They're both awesome guitar players, but Randy Rhoads was so much more precise than Jimmy Page. I mean, Jimmy Page is playing cool and sloppy, you know. Randy Rhoads is just like it's just spot on, you know.
Mhm.
So it's a very different world to try and play in.
I think I actually haven't talked to Link about this, but I think he has a secret hubby crush on Naoki. he's he's definitely got a thing for Naoki's work, which is understandable. I mean, Naoki does some amazing work, but I can definitely see that I'm definitely sure Link has been a student of studying Naoki's style
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's fun to identify somebody, and you kind of in your mind think of that, you know, okay, that's who I want to be when I grow up, kind of thing,
Mhm.
and to really pursue them. I mean, you know, a lot of people would say, "Oh, you're copying that," but that's how you learn. I mean, when I got
For
into
sure.
you know, brush painting, machining Krieger with lacquers, I didn't try and reinvent it. I went and
Mhm.
binge watched Link's videos and said, okay, he does it this way, I'm doing it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, knowing that if I ended up even looking 20% like he did, I'd be lucky because of, you know, his experience. But that's how you learn from people. And so, yeah, I think picking a few people and saying, okay, in that style,
Oh, of
that's
course.
what I want to. That's what I want to look at. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, if you're gonna play basketball, you pick Michael Jordan.
Mhm.
You know, you don't. I mean, I liked Kurt Rambis that played for the Lakers back in the '80s, but he's not the guy you pick to go. Okay, I want to, you know, I want to succeed and be, you know, really good at it. You go, I'm
Yeah.
a Michael Jordan kind of guy. I'm showing my
Kurt-
age, but
Kurt's in the chat, and he's really hurt. Oh my gosh.
well, I love the guy because the thing I liked about the Kurt Rambises in basketball is I could go, that still gives me hope. You know,
Yes.
when I
Yes.
see Larry Bird shooting off balance and his tongue out, you know, and he's falling backwards and all of that, I'm like, okay, I can do that.
Yes.
So that gives me hope. But when you see these guys that you're going, this is the ones that, because you know, there's a curve in your final look of a model. There's people that you get to a point where the curve starts going up like that, and then it gets really steep, and that 1% movement is really hard, even though it goes way up the scale. You know, so it's you practice and you do the basic things. You get to the 90%, and all of a sudden it gets super steep.
Mhm.
And you know, we've brought up Lincoln, so I'll bring him up. He's somebody I respect immensely
Mhm.
because I'm a modeler who will always emulate people. I'm not a creative guy. I'm not a smart guy. I'm not the guy who thinks things up.
Mhm.
You listen to Link or you listen to other guys like that and you go, they're doing this for the first time. where they're taking some other technique from some other discipline and they're applying it to this, and you're going, how did they even think of that? And so, yeah, finding somebody, and that's what always amazes me is guys that I look at as way up the scale that say, oh, well, I look at this guy, and then you go and look at him and you're like, oh, wow. I mean, it'd be kind of like if you're saying you go to Michael Jordan and say, man, I always try to play just like you. And he goes, no, who you really need to be playing like is this guy. It's just a constant growth process. It never ends. But I think that's part of the fun, because I've always said if I ever got done with a model and I looked at it and I was 100% satisfied, I probably ought to get out of the hobby. Because if there's no more room for growth, if you think there's no more room for growth, why not move on to something else?
I think one of the things is once you get to a certain level where you get to be like really experienced in it, and then when you do want to emulate other people, is that your experience has given you the eye to see what it exactly is about the other people's work that is what you want to emulate. So like when I'm mentioning about Lincoln being inspired or whatever by Naoki, I think what it is that I think Lincoln's so experienced, and especially very experienced in the Japanese world of that. So I'm sure what it is, if he were here to answer this, is that he's got the experience to be able to see what it is that he likes or that he wants to emulate, or maybe just draw inspiration from Naoki's work and then kind of apply that to what he's doing. So like that kind of expertise is very useful, I think.
One of the things that I learned in aircraft building, and now I'm bringing it into the stuff I'm doing now, is you first see somebody do a build and your initial reaction is either, oh, I really like that, or whatever the initial reaction is. But especially if you really like it, to start zooming in and digging into it and going, why do I like it? Because sometimes you may look at a build and go, well, that looks pretty much like any other build. It's well executed. But if you start zooming in though on some of these guys and you see the detail and the craftsmanship they put in, even at the very smallest minute level, you can really go, okay, that's going from very surface detail to right down in there. Okay, they cut out the vents that were molded into the the Gunpla shoulder, and they cut out little pieces of metal and they put those in there, and then they slightly bent them up a little bit. And when you first blush, when you look at it, you go, there's some vents on the shoulder. But when you zoom in and look, you go, oh, wow, there's a whole nother level of what's going on there. That's, again, and I keep picking on you, but I think it's in a good way, Josh. When I look at your book, that's why I love going through the pictures, and looking at it and going, oh, wow, in this detail, when I looked at the finished product, I didn't necessarily see this, but now that I go down here and I go back and look, wow, there's something. And I made a comment on somebody's, I don't remember who it was, but they posted a really nice build of something. My memory is awful. It was a model somewhere of something. And as I looked at it, I told him, I said, look, this looks really good. Something to the effect of, this looks really good, but I love how the deeper you look into it, the more details you're rewarded with. It's a payoff. It's okay. If you're going to spend time looking at my stuff, I'm going to give you something interesting to look at, something that you're going to go, oh, wow. And make you dig further, so it's more than just that initial glance of work.
Oh, man. We could talk forever.
I should interject because we do need to wrap up the show, but I think we obviously could keep going on. But before we get into it again, we need to wrap up the show, and then we'll have to continue. We'll have to have you on again sometime.
Well, I'd love that.
I would really like that. Yeah.
I really admit, I will readily admit, I talk a lot. So sorry.
Oh man, it's great talk. It's perfect. Yeah,
it was good, and I've seen a few people in the comments saying that they were really enjoying the conversation as well. So
cool.
That's great.
I'm glad.
Perfectly good.
Yeah.
All right, Josh.
Yes.
Your outro. Where can people find it?
Joshua Dara on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and stuff. And somebody was looking for my website before, joshuadara.com. You can get all my prints there, and I ship them worldwide and everything like that. Message me, ask me about building stuff and Gunpla or whatever. Just say hi anytime. I like to reply to people. So say hi. And that's it. Yeah.
Good. John.
JonBius.com. That's my website. I'm on Facebook as Jon Bius Scale Models. I do stuff on Instagram and Twitter. I have Patreon, and like I've said, and you're going to get some more unlikes on the video, but I'd really appreciate the support there. And check out I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel, and it's growing a little slow. So pity subscribe. I will take a pity subscribe all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. So take a look there too.
There you go. Yeah. I for some reason, okay, I won't get into it, but
Nice.
Subscribing doesn't cost you guys anything. So if you're a fan of John's work, just go click the subscribe button. It doesn't hurt you at all, and it only helps out John. So all right. So that very good. Yes, that's relatively easy enough to find. But after we're done here, I'll go ahead and I'll put some links down below. So if any of you guys are watching this not live, later on there should be some links in the video description where you guys can check out some of Josh and John's stuff there. Also, we should mention before we get to talking about stuff about myself, our other members, Justin and Simon, who are not here today. Jim, who hasn't been here with us for a long while. Jim, we're still waiting for you to come back and join us someday. Also, Tim, of course, who was recently named as the the United States winner for GBWC. Congratulations to Tim.
I can't believe that. It's fantastic.
That's his second time that he's going to be going to Japan to represent the U.S. So that's awesome. He's going to be going there in less than 2 weeks, 10 days or something, I guess, from now. I don't know exactly when he's leaving yet, but so he'll be there in Japan. And I think that was it. That all I wanted to mention about Tim. Congratulations to him. But I will also say to the rest of you guys watching, I told John and Josh before we started, but for the rest of you guys watching, I will also be going to Japan, but not as a GBWC winner, just as a GBWC event coverage guy. As a YouTuber. I'll be going there, and that's the plan for the moment, unless something happens that I won't be going. But at the moment, I'm planning on going there, and so I'll be able to cover the event for you guys, making some videos, and I'll be able to hopefully get some time to sit down with Tim, make some stuff there with him, and just like about talking with him about his experience there, and anyone else that we can talk to while we're there. And then at the same time, I'm also hoping to work on some updates for my Tokyo Gunpla guide. So if you guys any of you are unaware, I have the Tokyo Gunpla guide that I made now a year and a half ago, or right? Yeah. That has all the information you guys need if you're traveling to Tokyo and you want to just shop for Gundam stuff, or just you want to visit some Gundam related sites. It's all in the guide, but some stuff needs updating in there, so hopefully we'll be able to get a chance to work on that as well. So that is the plan for me. I'll be going there for a few days in 2 weeks. So that is pretty much it. As for my social media, guys, obviously you know I'm here, and then also be sure to follow my Facebook page. I would say is probably the most important thing aside from YouTube, just because I'm using that a lot for announcing things if I'm going to be going live, doing any live streaming, or just any sort of announcements or things like that, or just sharing updates, things like that. It's mostly on Facebook, but then also Instagram and Twitter. I basically just use for sharing stuff. So if you want to check out some cool Japanese builds and you don't know where to start, just follow me on Twitter, and then just look at all the stuff that I've shared or liked along the way, and you'll find plenty of stuff. So that's good advice for you, John. Instead of a bunch of stuff, just go to mine or Josh's. Go to one of our Twitter feeds and then just look at all the stuff.
I'll do that.
You'll find everything there.
I'll do that.
Well, that's a wrap for episode 50, guys.
Thanks to Alex in the chat as well.
Of course, yes. As always, Alex, thank you for moderating in the chats, and hopefully Alex will be able to be there in Tokyo as well. He's going to Japan next week, so he'll have to come back and then go right back again, basically. But if he can, hopefully he'll be able to go there as well. But we'll see. Anyway, thank you, Alex. Thank you guys all for watching and hanging out. John, Josh,
thanks for having me here.
Yep, good show.
That's it. Bye, guys.
See you, bye.
All right.